Justice Blinded. We are bringing you a live coverage today of the Decks of Keyforge Adaptive Tournament Semifinals. It's Archon Adaptive, so both players will be bringing their own deck to this tournament, and they will be playing an adaptive match. So one player will play the deck that they both players will play the deck they brought, then they'll switch decks, and if the same deck wins twice, meaning that the best of three matchup is tied 1-1, then what will happen is they will bid chains to determine who will be playing that deck in the third and deciding match. So before we jump right into the action here, we're going to briefly go over the decks. First, we are going to review Galaxy. This is Nathan's deck. Galaxy is a fast deck that has a bunch of control-y type things. It's got archival. It's got 2 libraries. It's got a poltergeist for artifact removal. It's got all sorts of things. We don't have a lot of time to talk about it because the match is about to start, but I'll come back here if there are any issues during the match that I want to review. The deck that Noam is going to be playing is called Shamu, or Shamu, the Villain Warlord. It's got Ammonia Clouds, Key Abduction, a couple Squawkers. It's got a little bit less Amber control, but again, it's reasonably fast. And ultimately, this is an adaptive match, so it's really not necessarily about bringing the best deck. It's about bringing the deck that you understand the best. And, of course, as always, getting a little lucky with the way it plays out. So let me see if I can get into the match, and we'll get going. Oh, and we started. So it looks like we are already a couple turns in, or one turn in. Noam chose Mars first and played a Bolter. And you can see Noam's hand up here at the top, and Nathan, aka CoryThan's, hand at the bottom. Nathan is a fellow member of Team SAS, currently ranked number 1 in the world on the Vault Tour, and finished as the first seed in this tournament. He basically apparently just wins everything. And then Noam finished as the 4th seed, which in this league is incredibly respectable. There were a lot of very top-level players, so even making top cut, which is only 4 out of, I think, 16 people. I'll look it up, but making top cut in this league is extremely good. So as I look that up, we see Nathan has played Disturn, throwing down a Stealer of Souls, a Succubus, and a Library, and then Noam is now doing some Shadows actions. He played a Carlos Phantom, then played a Master Plan, stealing one. Unfortunately, I was looking away for the moment, so I did not see what card he put under the Master Plan. Viewers on the stream will probably be able to tell that, but he put a card under the Master Plan, and now Nathan has called Logos. Positron bolted the Thief and the Bolter. Lab work, phase shift, and he's playing a Telga here, which puts him in a good spot. Nathan, unfortunately, is drawn up to a dreaded 2/2/2 hand, so that is never fun, but he's got a good board presence here, and we'll see what Noam's response is. By the way, I just pulled up the league. I will show you the final standings right now. This was the final standings. As you see, Nathan, CoryThan finished first. Noam finished 4th, breaking a massive tie. Four-way tie of 4th place, including great player Firissa, Luke from our team, Just a Guy Playing, me, and several other good players finished just below them. So this league was very competitive. LSY and B-Hawk will be playing in the other semifinal to come. But let's go back to the action. Noam decided to play Untamed. He played a Nocturnal Maneuver. He mimicry'd the Bolt, which is probably his best play there. The Positron Bolt. And so now it's back to Nathan. And Nathan, having his disc creatures exhausted, kind of has a choice here. He probably doesn't want a Hecatomb because there's too much value on board in Dis. My guess is that he would... I don't know what he's going to do here. Graph doesn't really do anything for him. Sloppy Lab Work does help unclutter his hand. He does have 3 Logos cards in graveyard, so that's, yeah, he's just going to play Graph for the Amber, and he's going to unclutter the hand. He's going to play Sloppy Lab Work, probably archiving I didn't see... He archived... He did that very quickly. So I think he archived the Hunting Witch, and then he discarded Hecatomb. So he archived Hunting Witch. So he's looking for a big Untamed turn. Unfortunately, he only drew up to one more Untamed creature, and Noam's coming back with Mars. The interesting thing, and I don't even remember if Noam has it in his deck, but the interesting thing with things like Graft is that if you're not paying attention, you're playing a Key Abduction deck, and he doesn't have Key Abduction here currently, but if you Key Abduct and forge for something virtually free and someone has Graft in play, they you would hand over all your Amber to your opponent. So that's just kind of a thing that I thought of that you want to keep an eye out if you're ever playing against the Brig combo, Binate Rupture, Interdimensional Graft in AOA, and you're playing a Key Abduction deck. You want to be very careful about your Amber control of your own Amber in that situation. So Nathan is going with the Untamed turn. Plays out the Witch, 2 more creatures, and he might he's probably going to Nature's Call here to pop the 2 creatures plus... I don't know. I don't know that he would pop the Bolter, but he doesn't really want to have his Hunting Witch purged, so he might. He's either going to pop Tunk or the Bolter. That would be my guess, along with his 2 Untamed creatures here. He has Cooperative Hunting, so we can just kill the Think Drone. Of course, he could also kill the Think... He probably wants to put 1 on the Bolter, 2 on the Think Drone, and then pop Tunk plus the 2 non-Hunting Witch creatures. That's probably the play. Chat's pointing out that 2/2/2 is just fine with Library of the Damned, which is true, but you have to call Dis in order for that to happen. And he wasn't in a great position to call Dis in that particular hand. But yes, Library of the Damned does definitely smooth out a lot of the problems. So he played Vigor, he played Cooperative Hunting to do exactly what I thought he would do in terms of damage. And now he's going to likely, pop Tunk the 2 creatures, replay the 2 creatures for the Hunting Witch Amber, and finish turn check at 10. Now, we'll see what Noam does. So Noam has several options here, but he might just want to... He could Reap to archive. So if he called Mars there, he could Reap and archive the Think Drone itself, then play the Ammonia Clouds to clear almost all of Nathan's board, and then drop down Mars creatures. That's probably what I would have done there. I don't think that I would have done a Lost in the Woods play there, but it ended up okay. The reason I like the other play, the Mars play, better than the Untamed play there is because you're going to end up with more of a board presence than you would just having a Lupo on board. Not that Lupo's bad, but you would have more of a board presence. You would, I believe, cycle, if I remember correctly, cycle 1 more card out of hand. So you would be able to go through your deck quicker. And I think that's probably what I would have done. But this isn't a terrible alternative option, and Nathan then just archives a card, throws out a Pit Demon and a Terror, and passes back, drawing into 2 Mothers, which is particularly nice, along with a Principle, which isn't great yet, and a Wormhole. So now we're probably going to see... I mean, we almost have to see... Yeah, we have to see the Mars turn here. So he's going to play Ammonia Clouds first. Yep. And then he'll play... I think he'll... Okay, so he protects Lupo. He's got to play the Bolter. Yep, the Bolter, and then Tunk on either flank. Doesn't matter. Okay. So we talked earlier, I mentioned Key Abduction. I admittedly did not memorize Noam's deck, but he does have Key Abduction, so he wants to be... You have to be... I'm wondering if at some point in time in this matchup, the playing of Interdimensional Graph will come into play. And I just realized, I'm very sorry. Very sorry, squad. I realized that my webcam is still on here. You should see his hand. That would be much more beneficial than watching my face. So we're going to do that. I can always put my face on the other side, but I'll leave the chat up, so... Or the lineage in case you want to see that my face doesn't do much for this right now. It doesn't do much for anything, let's be honest. But here we go. Nathan is playing a Dux Pixie, And he got a Nature's Call back and is going to replay the Pixie. Nature's Call Dust Pixie is just totally and utterly gross. And he bounces a Bolter in the progress and puts himself at check at 9. So Noam has a couple of options here, but I think... Let's see. So he can board develop with Mars or Shadows. If he board develops with Mars, let's see. He can't get any Amber off the board. If he plays Key Abduction, he'll be at 5. He'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He'll be at 13. He can't forge a key with Key Abduction. So he has to decide whether he wants to blow the Key Abduction right now just for the Amber and put the Mars creatures on board and unstun, or whether he wants to go, well, that was not something I had considered as a possibility, but putting Witch of the Eye on board under taunt is a very good threat. The only question here is he going to be forced into a weird decision later when he can't play Key Abduction because he'll remove the taunt? I guess he can play around that by putting it on the left. So he played Cooperative Hunting and killed off some of Nathan's board. Nathan has chosen to play a Principal, having already secured his second key, so he brings Noam off check, and he's going to play 2 Mothers. He wormholed into another Dust Pixie, which is just exceptionally lucky. I mean, granted, there are other cards that would also be good, but that's a really good pull. So then he went through an LA turn and drew a couple cards, and then got Dexter to capture 1, and is now sitting in a very good board position. Noam is fortunate that Nathan's not on check right now, but Noam still is left to just basically board develop and hope that he can somehow get a key and then forge the second one with Key Abduction. Nathan, as we can see, is unlikely to ever allow him that chance. All Nathan really has to do here is make sure that there's a house that Noam can call. Let's see. So Nathan is probably looking at this list right now, seeing whether or not there's anything in Mars that can control Amber, and I think the answer is no. So all Nathan has to do here is, because I'm making this analysis because he has control of the weak in hand. So if he gets to 6 and then simply control the weak to Mars, it's an instant win. Let me go back and confirm. No, Squawker, no. Mind Warper. So Mind Warper is a card that could capture 1 from the side, so so he could Squawker, Mind Warper, Squawker. I guess in theory, maximum you could take capture 2 there. So Nathan does, but he's playing enough Amber, so he's gonna get up to 8, and as long as he gets to 8, he knows it's virtually certain he's gonna control the weak to Mars, and that'll produce a concession because there is no Amber control in Noam's deck in Mars, unless I've totally missed something. Mars, he's just going to play out some stuff here, and play Key Abduction and lose, unfortunately, because he has no responses. So that is round 1. Nathan's deck, Galaxy, is a deck that he played in his Triad at Denver. It's a very good deck. So, I mean, it's not surprising that Galaxy won that matchup. Again, I only looked at Noam's deck briefly. I'm familiar with Galaxy because I tested it with Nathan leading up to Denver, so I know that's a good deck. So we're going to wait for the second game to be started in just a moment here. And now the interesting thing is, hold on. So we'll join here as a watcher. I'll try to join as a watcher. Oh, come on, Crucible. Don't do this. There we go. Did we not join? Oh, that was weird. Okay, and we're in. So it's going to be interesting here to see how Noam plays Galaxy. There are some nuances to Galaxy. I mean, I think it's a reasonably straightforward deck, but Noam made a mulligan decision here that's turned out exceptionally well for him. Anytime you play Galaxy and He won't be able to do it turn 1 because he has to play first and can only play a card. But he's going to drop a Mother turn 1, and then the turn 2 is just going to be brutal. Because turn 2 is going to be Library, Charette capturing anything he has. Possibly the Terror if Nathan doesn't gain Amber, but he will gain Amber. So he's going to do Mushroom Man, Grasping Vines, Under Full Moon, and gain 2. So here's the play. He goes Dis, he plays Library, Charette capturing all the Amber, and then he plays the Terror to gain 2, passes back and says, have a nice day. And from there, Nathan's going to need some exceptionally good responses. Although, he does have 2 Nexi? I don't know what the plural is. 2 Nexi in hand. So he will be able to dual Nexi some libraries, which would be kind of interesting if that's what happens. We'll see. I mean, it looks pretty clear that he's going to be playing Shadows here. But that is just such a brutal... Yeah, you see, he said, oof. Yeah, that was a brutal turn. Nathan knows that he's playing far behind because he's played Galaxy probably hundreds of times, and he knows that anytime Galaxy drops 2 libraries on turn 2, you are in a world of pain, because this is a deck that, if it can cycle through itself very quickly, has so much Amber generation that you're going to have a hard time. But Nathan is putting up a fight by throwing out his Nexi, and we will see what happens. If Noam... Oh, he's going to play Nature's Call. So the Nature's Call is going to be interesting here. So he killed Naughty. Now that's interesting. He killed Naughty in a Nexus, so that's enough. I was curious about Naughty, but then, it worked out. He's drawing exceptionally well and maximizing his options here, because he just plays Nature's Call, and now Nathan's got to go back and play another Shadow's turn to replay the Nexus, and he does get to bounce, so he's going to want to play Lights Out to bounce Teliga first, and probably, Mother? Yeah, Mother, and then he'll play Nerf Blast to kill the Pixie, he'll drop a Phantom and a Nexus. So he's doing all that he can do, but he is just dramatically behind. And so for the viewers out there that are watching this live or later, I want you to start picturing in your brain if you were in either one of these players' positions, assuming what appears to be... It's far from a foregone conclusion, but again, this Galaxy setup, I promise you, is a very strong position. So assuming that Galaxy wins this match, and we'll keep talking about this match in a moment, but I want you all to start thinking about what you would bid on chains if you were in either of these players' positions for round 3. Like, how many chains better, or how many chains do you think is it worth to play Galaxy? How many chains would you take? So think about that as we progress through this match. Meanwhile, Noam is putting down some Logos cards, and passes back. Noam is at 5, so he's not actually at check yet, and Nathan does have an opportunity here. He can Miasma. What can he Miasma? Miasma the Nature's Call is probably pretty good. So he could clear Noam's board. That's kind of interesting. So he could Lost in the Woods here. He could Reap with Mushroom Man, or fight if he wanted to, but I think he probably wants to Reap. Reap with Mushroom Man. And then he could fight Charette just to make sure Charette doesn't recapture Amber. That might not be a terrible play. No, but he's going to Reap. That's fine. So he's going to play Mimicry, probably on the Nature's Call. He's going to bounce 3 and put 2 in the deck. Which 2 does he want in the deck? My guess is he would want both Mothers in the deck rather than in hand, because those provide more immediate benefit the turn that they're played. So sure enough, he shuffles his own Mushroom Man and Phantom in the deck. He's then going to bounce the remaining 3 creatures to hand using Mimicry, and then he's going to play a Witch of the Wilds. Okay. So he's stabilized somewhat in board, but then we see here that Noam is going to come down with a pretty hellacious Dis turn. We'll see if Noam makes a mistake and plays Poltergeist. I doubt it, because Noam is a good player. I doubt he's going to make this mistake. But if he played Poltergeist here, he would kill one of his libraries. So is he going to hold Poltergeist? Is he going to archive Poltergeist? He's going to archive Library Access, holding off for an LA turn there, and then I would expect he would archive perhaps Effervescent or Dexter. Another one of the Logos cards setting up for an LA turn later. Now, he plays Poltergeist. Now, that is interesting. I don't know that I agree with that play. It does, the arguments for that play, playing Poltergeist and killing his own library, is that it puts him in check, but the utility of that library in Galaxy is super high. Like, it's always a good card, but it's very good in Galaxy, especially since he already started setting up for an LA turn. So I don't know that I would have valued putting myself in check right there that much, but I certainly understand why he did it that way. We will see whether or not this turns into some sort of rush game. You would only want to do that play if you believed that Nathan's deck, if it or Noam's deck that Nathan is playing, the deck Nathan is currently playing, if that deck stuck around long enough that it could catch up with Galaxy. And I just don't know if that's the case, but Noam is in the best position to know that. So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, he's playing a Mars turn, so he's basically cleared his hand. He's used the Megamouth to use the Nexus to use the library to archive a card, but there are 2 Succubi on board for Nathan. So, for Noam, playing Nathan's deck. It's a little bit weird to see someone else play Galaxy. Noam has chosen to pull his archives and try an LA turn right now. So the timing is good because of the effervescence, and because Noam just forged, and Nathan is at 7. So, Nathan, sigh. Nathan knows that this is gonna get a little ugly in a second, because why don't I ever get to win these games? Nathan is bemoaning that he's brought a good deck to an adaptive match. Welcome, Nathan. Welcome to an adaptive match. So he plays Graft just to cycle. He's played a couple different cards. He's played a Phase Shift into a Pit Demon, into a Mother, he drew another Phase Shift, into a Positron Bolt, into a Lab Work. So this is getting very close to being able to get not a complete loop, but a reasonably fortunate loop. So he then plays Lab Work, and I think he still has a Phase Shift active. He plays Nature's Call, so he's going to pop the Logos creatures to hand, I would think, and one of Nathan's creatures, probably the Witch. That's most likely the most threatening right now, I would guess. So the Witch or the Megamouth, I would assume. The Witch is probably what you want to pop here. But you want to pop the Logos creatures because you can replay the creatures, draw into the last 3 cards in deck. So he returned Mother, Dexter, and Bolter. Okay, so he only... Oh, yeah. So he popped a Bolter instead of the Witch. That's fine. I don't know I would have done that because he's concerned about the Bolter killing the Succubus, but he did play the other 2 Untamed cards, and then his loop fizzled out because because LA is nerfed, and he couldn't get LA again, and he didn't hit the other... he didn't have a need to draw back the rest of decks, but still, obviously that was a gargantuan turn. His board is crazy. He's got all these Untamed cards, and he has the one card in hand that Nathan really needs right now, which is Gateway. Nathan, I don't even know that there is a Gateway in here, so Nathan's just going to try to play a Mars turn where he does get to play Cooperative Hunting, and this is why I would have bounced the Witch, because there are a lot of cards at least some cards in the deck that are Untamed that he would want to use. So he's going to use that to archive Master Plan. He's going to either play a Witch or play Cooperative Hunting. My guess is he'll play Cooperative Hunting because he'd really like to get rid of these 2 Succubi, because he needs to draw into something resembling an answer, and this isn't it, right? This is not it. So Nathan is fighting a massively uphill battle with a Volkswagen strapped to his back currently, but to give him the best chance, I think he wants to kill the things that are denying him access to his library. So he's going to play Cooperative Hunting. I would expect to see, he killed 1 Succubus. Here's the other Succubus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He put, I think, 1 damage on the other Succubus was all that was needed. He'll put 3 here, I would guess, although he could leave that and then purge it with Bolter. So if he just put this there, he's got 5 damage to play with now. So he wants to kill a Pit Demon. That's fine. So he kills a Pit Demon, and then he's going to bolter the succubus and purge the succubus. Did he get both of them, or oh right, the LA is purged. No, he just got one through cooperative hunting. So Nathan is board stabilized a little, but he knows, like everyone else, I mean, his hand is basically face up because he drew all those cards. He knows there's a massive untamed turn coming. Hunting Witch, Dust Pixie, Creature, Vigor, I mean, like Telga, Snufflegator, Niffleape, Seed. Look, all this nastiness is incoming. And unfortunately, Nathan has 0 keys and effectively 0 way to answer this. So this is pretty clearly going to be won by Galaxy in all likelihood. For anyone watching live in chat, if you want to put your... you can do it one of different 2 ways. You can either put a prediction as to what you think Galaxy is going to go for in Game 3 in terms of chains, and I'll do my prediction in a minute. Or you can put what your ceiling would be, what number you'd be willing to bid up to play Galaxy Game 3 in this matchup. So I'd be curious to know if anyone who's watching has any guesses on that. I'm going to formulate a guess in a minute, but I'm going to watch Nathan rearrange some deck chairs on the Titanic here and attempt to get back into this, archiving some cards. And I mean, his long shot scenario is somehow get to a key next turn, then find some way to deny Noam a key the following turn, followed by Nathan forging a second key and then key abducting for the third key. That's his exceedingly long shot, but it's just not going to happen. But he will try, because that is what you do. So he's going to... He's going to do some more bolter action. You probably want to, you want to purge Charette, because you want to give right now, the Nathan's like 1 or 2% chance to win relies in him getting to the point in time at which getting to a key, and hoping that either Noam ignores it or lacks the ability to take him off a key next turn. We know Noam has a Principle in hand. I don't think Noam will be likely to play Principle next turn unless the math lines up, but... okay, so Nathan key abducted and then played Ammonia Clouds. So that is a pretty good play, because that gives him a whole bunch of Mars cards in hand. So I spoke a little too soon in terms of this being inevitable. I still think it's pretty clear, because as fancy as Nathan can now be, unless he finds a way to get key abduction back, he's got to forge 2 keys. And Noam is already sitting at 14, and Nathan doesn't have a lot of Amber control in this deck. But Nathan is making this game interesting. So Nathan's going to bolter here and purge something. Probably Mother, I would guess. It's the most threatening. Yeah. All right. Well, Nathan has made a game of this. So Nathan has pushed up to 9, got the key through the key abduction. The question is, what does Noam do in response? You, the viewers, and I both know that currently Nathan doesn't really have a way to stop Noam from forging 2 keys in a row in hand. Grant coming in... Strong Link, aka Strong Link, coming in the chat with the winning bids for Galaxy. I don't know where you got this information, but I love it. This is super useful. So, this is all from the tracker, isn't it? Yes, well done, sir. That's okay. Already coming in, Strong Link, aka Grant, is the creator of the Crucible tracker, already coming in with gold data for analysis here. So we'll come back to that in a second before we get to the bidding process. But let's make sure that okay, so Noam just gatewayed here, which pretty much that ends the game because Nathan did not draw into any Amber control answers. So this game is now over. So I'm going to start talking about it didn't matter anyway. So let's start talking about chain bidding. So these are obviously with different deck opponents, but Nathan bid 7 chains, and won with 7 chains. Rob dies, won it with 9. LSY won it with 7, 9, and 9. My personal ceiling in this matchup, because how fast Galaxy is and because it's definitely outclassing its opponents, I think I would go up to 9 or 10. I think I'd be willing to go that high in this matchup. It's just outclassing. And Nathan won all game 3s when Galaxy was involved. Okay, so Nathan is doing that. So we're in chain bidding right now. Nathan started at 0. Noam's gone to 4. Nathan went to 5. Noam went to 7. And we'll see if we get up to 9 or 10 here. That's my prediction. Well, that's what I would bid. I don't know what my prediction is. That I would judge Nathan's evaluation of chains is very good, so I'm hesitant to say anything he does is correct, but it's entirely possible. So we'll see. So Noam does go to 9. Now we see this is the range where I would be tempted to pass as Nathan. I don't know that I would. I think I might bid 10 here. And then if Noam bids 11, see. But, okay, so Nathan passes at 9. And we will see what happens. Yeah, they can just do a rematch here because they have the same decks that they're taking with. So Noam's going to be playing Galaxy. Nathan has made a judgment call that Noam's deck is good enough to potentially win this matchup when handing over 9 chains. So the one interesting thing is that, so Grant correctly predicting in chat, I'm assuming he predicted before Nathan passed that he won't bid 10. That was pretty much the inflection point. That's what I said, 9 or 10. I wasn't quite sure, but he did not. You were right, Grant. And we will see how this turns out. Right around the 9 or 10 area, it starts becoming a real burn, is what Nathan said. So apparently Nathan and I agree on at least one thing. We'll see what else we agree on as this match progresses, but I defer a lot to his judgment in these matters, especially on decks that he has this much experience with. So we'll see what happens. Yes, and that was it. So they're discussing a question that I had, because technically Nathan just lost, so Nathan is supposed to go first, or have the option, excuse me, as to who goes first. Hold on. Yeah, so that's interesting. We'll see if we can fix that in the future. Normally, the loser of match 2 in an adaptive match gets to choose who goes first. This is the one scenario where Nathan would want to choose to go first because it does not allow Noam to draw as many cards here, but nonetheless, that's what happened. He played a creature, played a succubus. Nathan played lights out, and he drew a very good hand. He's going to be able to empty almost his entire hand here with shadows and put some early pressure on Noam to find some answers. He plays Nerve Blast, same as discarding it because Noam doesn't have Amber. Noam says 9 was my limit, so apparently all people involved in this discussion and match are all on the same page that 9 or 10 is the right number. We'll see if it was 9 or it was 10. Obviously, there's some draw dependency in this match, but we will see. So, Nathan's played some threat stuff in Shadows. And then Noam responded by playing a Pixie and an Ape. And so now Nathan is in the dreaded 2-2-2 situation with no libraries, no special ways to archive cards. So he's got to decide what the most productive way is. I would probably stick with Shadows, but just simply because you can put more stuff on the board that steals. Nathan's going with Mars, so he's putting a Dominator next to the Shadow Self, which is kind of funny, because you'll have to kill the Dominator, but the Shadow Self will die in all likelihood before the Dominator dies because it's taking the damage, and it's kind of a weird little synergistic situation there. But he kills Dust Pixie using Mac, and then goes into Mars. So now he's going to drop, Noam's going to drop stuff on the board, play Succubus for Amber, And he's still at 5 chains, but now Noam's probably going to be playing an LA turn next turn, and a lot of this game will depend on how well Noam draws into cards with his LA. Meanwhile, Nathan is playing Full Moon, Lupo, Cooperative Hunting. Nathan's probably going to be... Oh, wait, never mind. I was going to say he's going to be agitated. He can't mimicry the LA, but I keep forgetting LA gets purged when it gets played. So he couldn't have mimicry the LA. He's mimicking Poltergeist because that's the only action it gets him in Amber. That's a feels bad moment for mimicry, but hey, it gets something. So he's going to Lupo into damage on the Succubi, then Cooperative Hunting, or Mac to kill the Succubi, and then Cooperative Hunting to kill Stealer of Souls, I would guess. Because he's not really concerned about the Niffle-Ape that much, because Mac the Knife, while good and elusive and can be attacked by Niffle-Ape, he's protected by Shadow Self. And he doesn't really care that much about these two creatures. So we're going to see the LA turn now. He's going to play LA, plays Effervescent, doesn't draw anything, plays Lab Work. He's going to... Doesn't really matter what he archives as long as he doesn't discard the Succubus. He'll play Phase Shift. Ooh, Phase Shift Nature's Call is kind of pretty good. Sloppy Lab Work, so he'll archive and discard a discard, probably. Discard a discard. Huh. Then he'll play Interdimensional Graft. Okay, so he's drawing into some answers. He discards Effervescent Principle, and he plays Nature's Call, popping back, maybe? Shadow Self, Mac the Knife, and Think Drone. Yep. And so that was a good turn for Noam. Noam did draw into a lot of stuff in the LA loop, so that is definitely something that benefited him a lot. Nathan pointing out that was way too good from 4 cards. He's not wrong. But, you know, it happens. Noam also drew into Gateway, which is going to be a particularly brutal response when Nathan vomits the rest of his shadows onto the board, only to see them all go away in about 30 seconds. So he's going to play all these creatures. Gateway is going to kill all these creatures. The one downside to Gateway, well, there are a couple, but the main downside to Gateway in Noam's position is that it is going to do a lot of damage to Nathan, but it's going to jack his chains back up to 8. So he's now going to be back in the not drawing. He's gone from the draw 1 less card range to the draw 2 less card range. Nathan bemoaning his luck. But he's probably going to bemoan it a little more in a moment because the LA turn is nothing compared to what's about to happen. Noam gets his first key, plays Gateway, and there goes the board. I think. Oh, that's right. He did archive a card, so he'll take the disc. Yeah, this is a brutal turn for a hand that started with 9 chains, or deck that started with 9 chains. Yeah, he's discarding Hecatomb. Now that's interesting. He should have. There's one misplay there. He should have played Hecatomb before. He should have played it after Gateway, so he gets the extra 1 amber rather than discarding it. So minor mistake, but if he loses by 1 amber, I'm going to arbitrarily declare it the Hecatomb incident. Just, I don't know, for something to talk about. Anyway, so he did all that nastiness. Nathan vomiting some Mars creatures onto the board, hoping they're going to stick this time, knowing that the Gateway is gone. But Noam is going to steal an amber, play the second library. These libraries are the antidote to all the chains. And Nathan really getting hit in the face with the deck currently. His own deck on the other side of the matchup. So that is not good from Nathan's perspective. But he is going to fight back here by killing a creature with Mars, healing Tunk. The Megamouths feel particularly bad now because he doesn't have any non-Mars creatures. So he's still going to generate some Amber, but he really would like... The frustrating thing is that he really would like to have some non-Mars creatures on the board, but if he continues to have this sort of Mars presence, he's got to take a turn off to play more non-Mars creatures, play any non-Mars creatures. So it'll really depend on judging what he feels like doing in that situation. So Noam does not put himself in check, but does more things that are good. He does a Positron Bolt, killing 2 of Nathan's creatures. Drops a Mother, which is a great antidote to chains. He has another Mother in hand. Everything's coming up roses currently on Noam's side of the table. Nathan's trying to fight back by playing a Dust Pixie and Nocturnal Maneuvers to exhaust all Noam's creatures, hoping that the Dust Pixie will still be around so it's a target for the Megamouths. But Noam has Noam has taken the Hunting Witch he had in Archive and is now going to play Cooperative Hunting to kill off some of Nathan's Mars creatures. He'll then play Nature's Call to return probably the 2 Mars creatures and the Dust Pixie to hand, his own Dust Pixie, and then he'll replay the Dust Pixie for Massive Amber bonus, and then he'll play Vigor for Amber, and it's just gross. He doesn't have the libraries anymore, but they're in hand. They're not on board. But this is not a match that Nathan looks to be winning at all, as he has previously experienced. Oh, and Nathan has just declared that is it. Nathan has declared it the most brutal 9-chain beatdown ever. I don't know if that's true, but it definitely was particularly brutal. Noam drew the right cards at the right time and, of course, maximized the cards when he got them. But that was just a buzzsaw that Nathan walked into that he couldn't really do much about. So we will see. We'll see in just a moment if I can get. Indeed, that was rough to watch. Yes, everything rough. Can I get? Let me see if I can get Noam. Let me see if I can get Nathan to talk about that for a second. So we're seeing if I can get Nathan on stream. So they're talking. They're doing a post-mortem in here about. They're doing a post-mortem about whether or not Nathan should have bid 10. I think it was fine for Nathan not to have bid 10 in that circumstance. Oh, yeah. Do you want to do wrap-up thoughts in voice for my stream? Yeah. Cool. Okay, so they're gonna do some thoughts in voice on my stream. I will go get in the voice chat. We're in voice chat here. Let's see. So I'll keep this page up. We're gonna get some parting thoughts from. We're gonna get some parting thoughts from Nathan and Noam in a moment. So while we're going there, that was rough to watch. So we have a question in chat about when deck quality matters so much, how does player skill impact a game like this? So I think player skill matters a lot. I don't know that. I mean, both Noam and Nathan are very good players. So when you have very good players, if you're above a certain threshold of skill level, I think that last game is predetermined based on the draws. Noam got extremely good draws. He played them well. It's not predetermined if Noam's not a good player, right? If Noam is not playing well, then it's not predetermined. But as long as Noam is playing at the skill level that Noam is playing with, then it's not a situation where it's a predetermined result. Sorry, it is a situation where it's a predetermined result when the draws are that strong, and even with 6 chains, he gets all the answers, gets the gateway right on time, gets all the other things right on time, and you could see even how to control the weak at the end there. So if Nathan kept playing, he would have played a bunch of stuff, and then Noam would have controlled the weak him out of that. So it's that sort of situation. And I think we have both. Do we have both Nathan and Noam on with us?
Yep. I mean,
Can you
Excellent.
guys hear me, or am I? I'm not sure if my computer's sounding okay now.
I can hear both of you. My voice connection is a little weird, but so we'll hang in there. I'll let you know if there are any problems. If chat can also let me know to make sure if when they start talking you can't hear them. But let's start with let's start with Gnome. Gnome, how did you feel the match went?
it felt like it went kind of as expected. The first game was I was expecting to mostly sketch out to see how the decks are matched up, and I was pretty confident I would lose that game, mostly because looking at the deck list, I saw that Corey's deck was much stronger, and I don't think my deck has a good matchup due to its lack of amber control. It's basically lacking in it.
Gotcha.
And and I think that the second game again went as expected, and the chains bidding, as was discussed, was about the right number. We both reached that conclusion. I drew really well in that third game.
Yeah, I mean, you did draw well, but you played the cards you needed to play, and it was interesting because I was talking on stream, and I read the comments you had made afterwards about what your chain bidding cap was, and I had discussed a possible before anyone started bidding. I discussed a possible. I had said either 9 or 10 would be my instinct, and then you guys bid up to 9, and then I think you said like you probably wouldn't have bid 10 if he had bid 9 first, right? Like 9 was pretty much your cap as well.
Yeah, 9 was my cap, and Corey said 9 was his. And I think that was the right number.
Yeah, no,
Going being down another card for would be super punishing, and even after the gateway to dis, when I had three extra chains, it was also super punishing.
right. That was the comment I was making. Obviously, gateway clearly the play you have to make there, but it's one of those things where like if for some reason Nathan had some big comeback play after that, and you're now putting yourself back in double chain land, so it can be an issue. Um,
I mean, part of the difficulty, like at that point, was that that turn had also built up like a good follow up untamed turn, and like he mentioned, like his deck doesn't have any like massive recovery amber steel. It just has like a little bit of like onesie twosie amber
right,
control. So it's
right.
tough to come back from the giant untamed turn.
Right. I think there are several turns that would be a little bit different if Gnome's deck that you were playing for rounds 2 and 3, and for the viewers, just in case you don't recognize his voice, that was Nathan talking just a second ago, aka CoryThan. But if it would be different if the deck that Gnome had brought had a TMTP in it, and there was a constant threat of TMTP floating around some of your later turns in games 2 and 3. That I think totally it really does give you an indication of how much the meta is um, around mass steel in that way, or if it had, I mean, I guess if it had something like what's it, Psychic Network or something, the Mars card that steals all the amber for the ready creatures.
I
Yeah,
also
like,
felt
go ahead.
that I also felt like Mimicry would have been a really good out, and that was what I was worried about with that line.
Gotcha.
So it felt like the play that I think Corey made a play earlier where he mimicried my Poltergeist to gain an amber, or kind of affected my line because it made me on edge. It made me kind of worried that he was going to do a lot of as burst a key when I had nothing to combat.
Right. Well, from a viewer standpoint, seeing the hands, I mean, Nathan's long shot victory potential was something like managing to get to 2 keys, and then I mean you had key abduction in your hand for a lot of that game, but just there was never any opportunity for you to use it. I think both games 2 and 3 you ended up having, you weren't holding it from it to make yourself chained, but you didn't have a lot of opportunities to use it effectively
I mean,
because of the denial.
I would practically never hold key abduction. So I wasn't holding it. I just,
It,
yeah,
it
like
wasn't
every
a
time I
Mars
built
turn.
up the board of like 5, Mars creatures, it was like, okay, well, Nature's Call, they're all back in my hand. Okay. Or,
Right.
I don't think
Right.
I had it at that point, but it was the Nature's Calls. And then the Gateway to Dis really trashed the whole Mars key abduction plan.
It really did. Having no creatures to abduct does tend to produce
Subpar key abductions.
subpar key. Yes, unsatisfactory key abductions.
From
So
previous
Go ahead. I'm
From
sorry, Noam.
pre- from previous experience and playing that deck a lot, I probably have close to 150 games with that deck.
Mm-hmm.
That Key Abduction is almost the first card you discard unless you set up something. Feels like
Right.
the discards are you discard it immediately because you're gonna cycle through your deck quickly if you have a good Mars play, and you always have the possibility of using your Megamouth on your Witch of the Eye to get it back from the discard pile, so it basically still is an option later.
That's a great point, and your point there really illustrates the importance of playing of when you're going into an adaptive match of knowing your deck well, because a lot of the analysis, if you watch, if for people who are listening to stream or if you watch stream back, you'll see a lot of the time I was talking about Key Abduction as like a potential Hail Mary out for Nathan. But one of the things, looking back at it, because I had never seen or played, I think we had one match during the tournament. It was a while ago. I don't even remember if you played this deck. You might have. I don't remember, but I certainly don't remember the deck. But you don't have a lot of archive in this deck, so like that. So it's not the sort of thing where you see Key Abduction and you look at it as like a miracle out immediately. You're right. You have to set it up more often. So it's just illustrative of how important it is to know your own deck. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting like this. So the second game had one thing where like I made a big misplay that it turned out would have been totally irrelevant because of what Noam had in his hand anyway. But it could have I could have won the second game at the end there, where I had the like massive turn where I destroyed like most of the creatures off his board except for two of them. I screwed up that turn pretty badly because I was playing it like, okay, well, I just want to clean most of the important things off of his board. But when I finished up doing all the killing creatures, I realized, oh, I still have Witch of the Wilds out, and
Yeah.
I have Witch of the Eye in my hand, and Witch of the Eye was the only thing I had that could have um, dealt with the nasty like amount of amber that he had from bursting a ton of amber. And with Witch of the Eye, if I destroyed his entire board, I could have potentially had Witch of the Eye out and reap Mimicry back, and then used one of my deck's cards to try to extend the game a little bit longer. But I screwed that up and didn't destroy all his creatures because I forgot that I had the Witch of the Wilds out to play Witch of the Eye.
Well, right, and
I
it's
didn't
yeah. Go ahead, Noah. I'm sorry.
I didn't do the math, but I was pretty sure that you could have, if you had gotten the Witch of the Eye, the right play was to get back the Key Abduction that you played that turn or the turn earlier, because I was pretty sure that you could forge another free key from that, and then you'd put yourself ahead in the race, and I didn't have any amber control, and I think you would have won that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter because you had the gateway, but it would have mattered if you hadn't.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of nuance in there, and even I, when I was going through game two before you did the Key Abduction play earlier on, I think I had even done the math incorrectly because I was already 2 or 3 turns before the end of the game. I was asking chat for predictions on chain bidding on Galaxy, and then I started to see what you were doing, and you found a line that made it very interesting in game two. I'll put it that way. Um, well, key abduction into check for second key is pretty good. But obviously you just don't have there wasn't enough mass amber steel um, into the threatening position that Gnome was constantly putting you in. So, um, are are you are you planning um, on getting tips for getting that draw with Galaxy in Game 3? Because that would definitely help if you could do that, like if you had like at a Vault Tour or something. Obviously being sarcastic, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have that exact same game happen to me in the finals of a Vault Tour. Sounds perfect. have them draw the like ultimate LA turn, and then
No, I mean, no, it was like there was a lot of I was talking a lot about the LA run, and I mean, like the one question I had the one question I have for Gnome about the play was there was a point in time, I think it was game 3, when you had both libraries on the board, and then when you were still at like 5 or 6 chains, I think, and you poltergeisted a library to put yourself in check, and I was debating with myself whether that was the right decision to blow up a library to put yourself in check. I think it was for first key. Do you remember that board state?
I think that was game 2, and
Okay,
I
game
think that was
2.
near the end.
Yeah.
And that was near the end. And what I was thinking, like you can go back and watch my VOD later
Sure.
to get my thinking on the spot. But I was pretty sure that it was something along the lines of, "I'm not predicting to call this again, and
Okay.
if so, and if I am, I don't. It's going to be right at the end of the game, so the archiving one extra card is not going to be super relevant."
Okay.
And
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I almost certainly would have done the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. No, I mean, I was internally debating back and forth with myself because I didn't know whether or not, because I know it wasn't checked for the third key, but you're right. It might have been the second key. I didn't write it
The
down.
only the libraries of the damned like don't do that much in that deck usually. Like I find that the time that they come in most handy honestly is when the deck is heavily chained,
Right.
because if you have those, then you can never have a bad dis turn. So they're really good for when it's chained, but otherwise, like you kind of just like sure you archive a little bit, but you kind of just want to like get your giant untamed turn and control the tempo with your mothers and succubi and nature's calls and stuff.
Right. And I think you're right. I for some reason, and again, my memory being notoriously bad, for some reason I thought it was in game 3, but I just scrolled back through the dialogue for game 3, and I don't. It was not. I did not see it in there. So I think you're right. It was game 2. That makes a lot more sense. I had merged them in my brain apparently. But all right, fair enough. Any parting thoughts that you had? Noam, you'll be on to play the winner of. I don't believe the other semi has played yet. It's the winner of LSY and B-Hawk, who are both very good players. I don't think they haven't played yet, right? Because I'm pretty sure I was gonna cast
they
that if
haven't
they
played
did.
yet, but I
Right.
lost to both of them earlier in the season, which
Okay.
is kind of worrying. But I think my match against BH was very close, and I got same with LSY. I think both of them went to. I think both of them were in. Something's going on in the back.
I
Give me one
I don't
sec.
know. I okay. I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, there's something playing in the background. But I think both of them were in 2 games, but each game was like within a couple amber of each other.
Mhm.
So I'm, and I think that I've learned my deck, and I've now with experience with their deck, it might be closer, but it's not going to be easy anyway.
Gotcha. So Oh, okay. Apparently, I was just looking at the league page, and apparently our league has preemptively, because it wasn't set up for playoff brackets, it is preemptively declared um, Nathan the supreme champion. So we'll have to do some editing on that. Sorry, Nathan. But yes, so definitely we will look
That's
forward.
fine. You don't need that.
Yeah, no need to edit. Okay, sure, no problem. So we will definitely be looking forward to seeing you in the finals, Gnome. We'll hopefully get a good matchup there, and you'll get your chance for revenge at least one of these two individuals in the finals, and that should be a great matchup. Nathan, do you have anything you want to say? Any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, go get them. Like,
That's fair. All right. Okay, well, I think then we'll cut it there. I want to thank both Nathan and Gnome for sharing some parting thoughts with us on stream. We will be back to stream the other semifinal between LSY and B-Hawk sometime in the near future, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll get this up to YouTube as soon as I get my YouTube channel up and running, which hopefully should be tomorrow, whenever I figure all that out. So we'll get this all up, but it's on Twitch now. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more Keyforge action, and I'll stick a link for Gnome's Twitch channel in the chat right now. So anyone who would like to go back, and anyone who was watching my feed wants to go back and rewatch from Gnome's perspective, I encourage you to do so, because obviously I'm kind of doing it from a neutral perspective, seeing both hands and hearing what is in the mind of the people playing it is always a unique and beneficial perspective. So stuck Gnome's channel in the chat. I encourage you to go watch him, follow him, and I think that's all for today. So thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will cut it there. Keep forging, guys. I'll talk to you later.